Welcome everyone to the Undersea Workshop. I'm G.OctoCo, and today I'm going to show everyone how I made my Lucifer staff. To make this, I started with building an armature. Now, because I was going to be working with polymer clay, I thought the easiest thing to do would be to start with aluminum foil. So this is going to be me making an apple, where I start with just a long sheet of aluminum and I crunch it up as much as possible and keep building off it until I have a vague apple shape. Now, when I was doing this, I was comparing it width of the pipe to make sure it wouldn't look like ridiculously small or ridiculously big on it. And then we moved on to the snake. You'll see here, right off the bat, this thing's a lot thinner than the final product, but I did not know that at the time. Again, the snake was fairly easy for as complicated as it may look. It's really just a long strand of aluminum foil crunched up to as much as possible. With the aluminum foil done, it was time to start working on the PVC pipe. So I needed to form the handle. So this is me cutting down the PVC pipe. I had measured this out to the length the snake head needed to be. So I just keep cutting around here. I just want to put a quick reminder. If you're going to be working on PVC pipes, stay safe. A PVC pipe is pretty dangerous. And then came the fun part, because the PVC pipe was too thick that I would need to cut it in half and work with only the half of the PVC pipe. So I put it up in this little structure. It managed to work out, especially with this particular saw I was using. I'm going to bring these half PVC pipes outside now, and we'll actually start working on shaping them. So I've got my little heat gun out here, and we're just going to have to bend it. First of all, I wanted to bend it closer into a circle because I found it was too wide. I was heating up little portions and using pliers to try and form that shape. And you'll see me doing that later on where I'm using all my tools. But once I got it into a shape that I thought was fine enough, it was time to actually start forming the snake. So you'll see how my tinfoil is back down on the ground for me to compare with. And again, I was just working in small portions. And when it got nice and malleable, I'd put it up onto the tinfoil and use the tool to hold in where the hot areas were to actually hold it there until it cooled down. This was a really nice one to put inside the clay to give it a little bit more strength. Which brings us to part 2, forming the clay. So I started with polymer clay. Like I said, I went with the cheapest I could find, which ended up putting me with Sculpey 3. I'm going to start here with forming the apple. I wasn't sure whether I was going to be using paint or not for this at this stage. Since everything's colored, I was hoping that I wouldn't have to repaint it. I used all of the red clays I could find. I don't know if polymer clay has to be kneaded, but my school pottery classes taught me well, so I started kneading on the glass. The good thing about this is it really helped warm it up so it was nice and usable for actually forming. I was blending the clays together so I could have enough clay for what I needed. Because one of these little things was not enough, I think I ended up using about 3. Working in little sections, I would lay the clay down over the apple and try blending in and making sure every side was covered. I was really just trying to blend in here, and oh my gosh, you can see on my hands all the dye that was getting into my fingers. Once it was warmed up, it was so malleable that the slightest touch would leave prints, but that's fine. I was laying it over the glass and trying to roll it. I was trying to blend out all those little fingerprints, but I ended up with an apple that I think worked fairly well. But now it's time for the snake, and I cannot tell you how many clays I used in this, but it was a lot. You could see all those little wrappers in the corner of the screen here. So I had to obviously not work with the entire thing. Again, starting in the little sections. I was thinking I could roll it like it was a dough and prevent my fingerprints. You can't prevent fingerprints in this, especially because it was sticking to the glass. And then, much like the apple, we're just going to lay it over the tinfoil and really try to smooth it in. At this point, I was thinking my project was going really well. I did leave it a little bit wider around the snake neck, and because the tinfoil was much looser,
I did notice that it was cracking a lot easier than around the tail portion, but I didn't give it too much thought at this time. And once it's all covered, we're going to take it, and much like the tinfoil, we're going to wrap it around the PVC pipe and form it. This is where some issues start showing, because while it might have been good in a nice straight line, the weak parts of the tinfoil started breaking apart, and when that happened, the clay was not strong enough to hold it together, so the snake body started breaking in half. And then we put it in the oven. This did not turn out how I wanted. When I was doing my research, I was told that polymer clay should be slightly bendable, and in my naivete, I thought that meant I would be able to cut it in half and put the PVC pipe in. But no, this is so brittle, and it was not going to work how I wanted. I was kind of at this point thinking I couldn't even use clay to form this, because I'm not sure, like, it feels like if I drop it or hold it in the wrong way, the entire thing would just shatter. And I started cutting it in parts. This is a little bit more painful because all my hard work. So I cut off the head, and then I started cutting through the neck, so I would be able to put the PVC pipe inside, since obviously I couldn't make the PVC pipe in it originally. It still need to go in. And you'll see more colors starting to be added to this snake, because after I cut it apart, I had to piece it back together. The hollow tinfoil parts ended up being too narrow for the actual PVC pipe, which meant I needed more clay to add to this thing. So I was trying to do that in parts by adding more clay to make it slightly thicker so the PVC pipe can go inside. And I was hoping that if I just kind of peeled it off or cut it nicely, I'd be able to have a nice smooth finish when I put it in the oven. Like, at this part, nothing was really going right. Don't expect a project to be easy if you have not worked with the medium before. I didn't think about this for some reason, but obviously when I peeled the clay apart, the clay lifted from where it was supposed to be. So it wasn't being baked into the right formation. It did not go as I intended. It was not going to be a smooth finish. So I started having to cut off the pieces I had added. Not all of them, just enough where it would actually be able to clamp together in a fairly decent, neat looking way. So I'm really just cutting all of that with my little X-Acto knife here. And I kept comparing the PVC pipe, because this is my core. I need to make sure it could actually get inside the handle to give it that strength. And I found this one actually, like, surprisingly neat and snug. Almost like it was made for it when all the tinfoil was actually taken out. So that was, our one little victory in this. And then it was time for the apple. Since I was cutting everything anyways, I was going to cut a little circle into the apple, comparing it to the PVC pipe. So that was one of the more straightforward ones. Which brings us to part 3, paint and glue together. So I did not showcase this, but when I actually got it together, it looked like it had been shattered. There were wide spaces where you could see the PVC pipe inside. So I ended up going through multiple types of glue, and I covered this thing to the point you can't actually see the polymer clay underneath. It's now been air dried clayed together. It took so long to get to this stage that being able to finally paint it felt like a celebration. I was researching so many types of paint until I found this one. It gives off a wonderful little chrome finish if you put on enough layers, especially. You can see here how it just already looks like actual gold. This project was such an adventure, but like I said, I am in love with how it came out. This makes me really excited to see what the final product of my Biblically Accurate Angel Lucifer will actually look like. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. And hey, if you did, there's videos popping up on the screen now. Consider checking one of them out. Thank you so much for watching and joining me in the Undersea Workshop. See you later, guys.